Right. Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth session in the Think Like a Scholar series. Belonging is often treated like something you either have or you don't have, but in reality, it's something we build. In this session, it's all about redefining belonging for those whose academic journeys don't look like the traditional path. Throughout this session, we'll give space to acknowledge your contributions as a non-traditional student. It's okay if you guys aren't non-traditional students and you're watching this as well. You'll be able to get something out of it too, I believe. We'll work to understand the different barriers that you may face to finding your community and belonging. And hopefully along the way, you'll come away from this session with strategies for connecting and creating communities for wherever you are. Whether you're studying online, juggling caregiving or work, returning from school after a break, or you're navigating education as the first in your family, you bring experiences that deeply enrich academic spaces and contribute to communities and belonging. Okay. As we start our conversation, we'll be centering three things: confidence, community, and connection. Confidence grows from not from having all the answers, but recognizing that your path is legitimate. Non-traditional journeys require flexibility, persistence, and self-direction, and all of these qualities strengthen your scholarship and scholarly identity. Community reminds us that everyone brings something meaningful to the learning environment. Even if your route through school looks unconventional, your story adds depth to the conversations and brings insights that others might not have to particular communities. And then finally, connection is often a piece that feels the hardest from afar. Yet, even within a small network, like one classmate, one professor, or a reoccurring study space, can make academic life feel less isolating and more grounding overall. There you go. Okay. To understand belonging, it helps to start with who we're talking about. In this particular session, we did make a strong focus for non-traditional students, but that doesn't mean, again, that just because you're not a non-traditional student, that this session doesn't apply to you. So non-traditional scholars make up a large group of those who are currently in academia. A non-traditional scholar is anyone whose educational journey doesn't fit the standard mold created decades ago. That could be a returning student after years of being away from academia, a first generation college student navigating unfamiliar systems, or an online learner balancing work and family responsibilities, or even somebody who, again, is coming back to higher education, but maybe perhaps this time after a stint in the military or being away a long time because of being in the workforce and they're deciding to change their career pathway. When we name some of these identities, we reduce the sense of I'm the only one, and we open a space for belonging. We are seeing some technical difficulties. Oh my goodness. There we go. Once we see the diversity of students in higher education, it becomes clearer why older narratives about who belongs often feel short. For a long time, academia was built around the narrow idea of who a student should be. Usually, it was someone young who was doing school full time with few outside responsibilities. And that assumption shaped everything: the schedules, the expectations, the participation norms, and definitions of success. But most modern learners don't look like that. Many have been historically excluded or underrepresented in academic spaces, not because they lacked the ability, but because the systems weren't built to support them. However, the notion of an ideal student still hangs around in many institutions, especially in the STEM background. But when your life doesn't look like that image, it can create pressure and a quiet sense of failing short, even when you're working incredibly hard. This perspective promotes unrealistic expectations and leads to gatekeeping practices that discourage those who don't conform. One of the first steps in building belonging is releasing yourself from that outdated comparison. By acknowledging the diversity of academic journeys, we can dismantle these limiting norms. And embracing a wider definition allows for more inclusive understanding of scholarships. It recognizes the unique experiences of the academic community that these students can bring and fosters a deeper sense of belonging overall. All right, so when those narrow assumptions fall away and we stop focusing on them so much, we can start to talk about why different academic paths strengthen learning rather than disrupt it. Many non-traditional students bring depth and perspectives that can transform learning environments. Their life experiences, whether they were a caregiver, community worker, whether they are engaged in employment, or even the personal challenges that they have, gives them and overall you guys that many traditional learners simply don't have coming straight out of high school into college. Non-traditional paths matter because they expand the possibilities of what learning can look like. They bring real-world experiences into academic discussions. They challenge assumptions, deepen conversations, and help scholars make connections across disciplines and life contexts. Now, I do want to add one caveat with the fact that although there may be traditional students who go straight from high school into college, they may have very similar pathways or life experiences as with non-traditional students. I do want to acknowledge that many traditional students may be working their way through college or may have worked their way through high school and earn scholarships that allow them the opportunity to not have to do that in college. But they still have those lived experiences that they can bring to the table and add to those conversations. All right. Of course, even with all these strengths, there are real challenges that non-traditional students face. You may struggle with feeling behind, or you may be balancing class, work, parenting, and caregiving. There may be cultural expectations that pull students in different directions, asking them to choose between caregiving, employment, and academic goals. Or you may not even see many people with similar experiences represented in your department or institution. Distance learning can also add a sense of isolation and make it harder to form personal connections, especially when classes are asynchronous. Just meaning that when you are listening to recordings and you don't actually have an opportunity or a venue to engage with your peers. Furthermore, imposter syndrome often shows up more intensely for non-traditional students, making you doubt your accomplishments and make you feel like you're pretending to be a student. Lastly, visibility matters incredibly. It's hard to feel like you belong when you rarely see people with similar journeys represented in your field. But none of these challenges mean that you don't belong. They simply mean you are navigating a system that originally wasn't built with your needs in mind. Even in the face of these barriers, belonging can grow through some small, intentional engagement. And that's where participation becomes powerful. Belonging is not something that institutions grant or withhold. It's a practice, a set of actions that can help you connect, participate, and claim your space. Belonging grows when you share your experiences, when you ask questions, when you engage with your peers, and when you allow yourself to be fully present as your authentic self. Rather than waiting for validation, you can cultivate belonging through intentional participation and by building relationships that affirm your identity as a learner. Look and build those communities that you want to be a part of. For students learning from afar or with limited time due to other responsibilities, participation doesn't need to look like constant activity. It can be slow and steady. And the key is consistency, not intensity. One practical takeaway that I want you guys to maybe use, not right now, because obviously finals is happening just this week, but maybe something for spring, is choose one predictable point of engagement each week, whether that is office hours, class discussions, or even a weekly check-in with a peer that you've seen in multiple of your classes. Participation becomes easier when we remember the strengths non-traditional scholars already bring with them and leverage those strengths. We've talked about it a lot, but your lived experience can be one of the greatest academic tools that you have. Caregivers develop time management and emotional intelligence. Working students build discipline, communication, and problem-solving skills. Community leaders teach cultural awareness and collaboration. And returning students often bring resilience and a clear sense of purpose. These strengths support your academic performance, provide an avenue for finding communities, and enrich your contributions to class discussions, group projects, and research. Oh, there we go. When your strengths are acknowledged, they naturally support a growing sense of academic confidence and identity. Confidence grows when you understand that your background is not a liability, but it's an asset. Instead of seeing your differences as disadvantages, you can view them as sources of knowledge that shape your scholarly voice. Identity is not something you must minimize in order to fit into academia. It's something you can draw on, integrate your past experiences with your academic goals. And when you see yourself as a legitimate scholar with a distinct perspective, your confidence naturally expands. The more you engage, the more you see yourself as a scholar. And the more you see yourself as a scholar, the more natural engagement becomes. And confidence grows in that loop. A practical takeaway for you to think about over the winter and bring into spring is share a small piece of your background when appropriate in classes. Even a sentence can help create visibility and normalize non-traditional pathways for others, while also finding people who have like-minded journeys. Before moving forward, I'd like to take a moment for you to reflect on your journey. If you feel comfortable, you can unmute or even drop a sentence in the chat, but think about what brought you to this point. What brought you to ASU? What brought you to your discipline? What brought you to the kind of research that you're interested, the kind of books, the kind of academic journey that you want to go on, or your future career goals? What experiences shaped your learning? What obstacles have you overcome? And what strengths you've developed along the way? I want you to consider how these experiences have prepared you to contribute uniquely to academic spaces. And I'll give you guys a moment to just really think on that. Reflection is one of the simplest ways to deepen belonging. By taking this moment to acknowledge what you've overcome, what you've balanced, and what strengths you've gained, brings clarity and grounding to your future endeavors. Even as I ask for you to share your experiences with your classes, you really don't have to share that reflection for it to matter. Even privately, the understanding of what brings you on your academic journey, what pushes you forward, what goals you have in mind, strengthens your sense of identity as a scholar. So I want you to keep that one strength that you thought about through your reflection, along your journey and keep it at the front of your mind for something you can refer back to whenever doubt appears or whenever you feel like you're never going to find that community. Belonging becomes more sustainable when those diverse experiences that you just thought about lead to ongoing intentional connections. By building supportive relationships in academia, you will begin to lower your feelings of isolation, encourage consistent interactions with your peers, find mentors who will guide and inspire your academic journey and goals, foster reciprocal support within the communities that you build and belong to, and help you engage in belonging through collaborative efforts. Even in online or non-traditional settings, connection is possible and essential. Seek peers who understand your experiences. Reach out to instructors and participate in discussions where you can share your voice. Community is not about matching identities perfectly. It's about building relationships that sustain you. When you feel supported, your academic confidence and motivation increase dramatically. Community doesn't have to mean joining everything or being highly social. For non-traditional learners, community often grows from a single peer that you check in with regularly, a consistent study hour shared with others, a group chat for a class, a professor you feel comfortable emailing and updating along your journey, a mentor who understands your goals and who can support you, an online community aligned with your interests. Hey, just like us at the Liminal Society, or even small networks that can often feel more supportive than larger ones that you kind of get lost in. So identify that one person, peer, instructor, or mentor that you can intentionally stay connected with through your academic journey. No, absolutely. I'm just kind of reading from the chat. And yes, absolutely. There are so many different types of communities and ways to connect, whether you're an online student or like you're talking about a small campus, a large campus, um, the in-person commuters, even if you're only talking via email, text messages, there's just so many different types of communities that we can be a part of, especially in this global um environment where you can even have friends across the world nowadays and you can engage with them across different time zones. It is so important and it's a huge asset in your academic journey. Absolutely. Someone has brought up the fact that ASU has student coaches. You also have your academic advisors. You have your support coaches. Each department, a lot of them will have peer mentors. There's a lot of different resources. And I would say if you are having a huge time finding a community or you feel like you're struggling a lot, one of the best resources is those support coaches, not the academic ones, but specifically the success coaches that ASU's provides. A lot of them have their fingers kind of in everything, and they can really provide you with that support. And even if there are people who are outside of ASU, because we do have this recording on YouTube, look at your institutions, look at the counselors, and see if there's anything that they can provide to additionally help. Oh, absolutely. I'm going to take a pause to grab that for you. Usually, if you go through ASU and you're grabbing it, if you're in your My ASU, there's a portion where you have the option to schedule a meeting with your academic advisor. But there's additionally underneath that, it usually says success coach or like success support coach. But I can definitely find a link for that as well. Give me one moment. And they even have a phone number as well. Here we go. Because it even says communication between student and success coaches typically happens via text message, phone call, or Zoom. You can choose an option that works best for you, and they can provide you with assistance. I've dropped that link in the chat for the success coaches. I really think that they are such an amazing tool. I use them a lot. I had my son, like I was an online student. I had my son midway through, I think it was, he came early midway through summer, and he came literally 2 weeks before finals, and I had to figure out how I was going to finish my classes, what if I was going to take an I, how to navigate talking to professors. Even before I had my son, when I first became pregnant, talking with professors about different accommodations that I would need, um, depending on how the pregnancy would go. And my success coach was so sweet, so supportive, was able to provide me with all of the different resources that I need, got me in contact with sales, which is the disability accommodations. They literally have probably a website or a tool or can point you towards any direction for any kind of support that you need outside of just like the plain academic stuff, like any type of social support that you need. And if they don't have the answer, they can definitely find it for you pretty fast, or they can just send it by email for you as well. Like they'll definitely go digging through stuff just to make sure that you're supported. No, absolutely. I know also, I will definitely drop it in the chat later. I'm trying to remember. I found a online. There was an email that went out for online students with all the different support resources that they had. I will have to find that link again. But if you send me an email, I'll drop that in the chat again. I can definitely look for that. It was a new thing that I just found. Yes, absolutely. That is so incredibly important. The fact that they're not the academic advisors, so they're not kind of pigeonholed into one specific department, they do have resources that kind of go across different departments. So that's super important as well. Not only that, I believe they're on campus. So even if you're like an online student where you're like going to campus for like a particular lab, or you're just visiting ASU for the campus, they even have resources alongside with that too. And again, if they don't have the resources, they can usually find somebody who does have the resources and point you in the right direction. All righty. Definitely some great conversations. I am going to look for that, and I will definitely make sure to if you make sure to email me, just because I'm not sure if the name that you have in the chat is the same name that you signed up for with the RSVP, just send me an email. I will go ahead and find that web page specifically for the online students, but it probably has some good stuff if you're not an online student and you're in person too. And I'll definitely send that out to you guys. No, we had some great conversations. Thank you so much, everybody. Um, so belonging doesn't require you to fit in that mold or erase aspects of yourself. I mean, we even talked about the fact that we have so many different experiences. We come from so many different walks of life. We have to navigate things, and a lot of the times we feel like we're figuring it out by ourselves. But if you just show up authentically and you recognize that your story holds scholarly value, higher education is expanding every year and evolving because of people like us, people who show up and we demand that we have spaces to engage and find that community. I know, especially with ASU, they're having this really big push where they understand that from the online student perspective, that we are hungry for more engagement. We are hungry for more events. And they're really trying to figure out ways to fill those gaps. But if we don't speak up and say that we want it, they'll never know exactly what we need. Your presence in academic spaces is a form of expansion and transformation. You belong because you are here learning and contributing. Every academic journey is unique. Your story, your pace, your responsibilities, they aren't things to overcome in order to belong. You may need to overcome them in order to get your studying done, but that doesn't preclude you from belonging to a community. They're a part of the perspective you bring to your field, to your peers, to your classes, and even to the communities that you start to engage with. Inclusion is strengthened when diverse stories sit side by side and help to shape the future of academic spaces. Again, staying connected requires intentional action, especially if you're studying from afar or balancing those multiple roles. Simple steps like introducing yourself to classmates, attending virtual office hours, or sending a check-in message to a peer can help build that consistent support. Celebrate your progress and acknowledge your milestones, even the small ones. The more you weave your connection into your learning routine, the more grounded and supported you will feel. Strong connections take time and repeated encounters. This might look like joining the same event each month, attending recurring workshops, or simply keeping up with your peer in your major. Shared progress builds trust, and trust builds belonging. So again, this session and semester is almost open, but as we go through winter break into spring, I want you to choose one reoccurring academic space to attend more regularly. Heck, it doesn't even have to be an academic space. It can even be a social one, a club one, but even monthly attendance can create meaningful connections. And I do know that I just let somebody into the Zoom room. Don't worry about missing anything. There is a recording going right now. So if you are uncomfortable with being on camera, go ahead and just mute both your camera and your audio. You don't have to speak up. You can always drop comments, questions, or concerns in the chat. And again, we will have a recording that will be available on our website. In addition, all materials for today will also be on the website for view. And I'll go ahead and drop that link for our website in the chat again for you guys. Give me one moment. There you are. And then definitely you can feel free to drop in the chat what session this is for you. If you attend 3 sessions or if you even watch the past recordings and you let us know, you will get a certificate for attending and or watching at least 3 of them. With all of this in mind, we can return to the idea of belonging and think about what it actually means in your day-to-day academic life. Belonging is emotional, but it's also practical. It grows when your needs match your supports, when you feel seen, heard, and you're able to access the spaces you need. Take a moment to consider what belonging feels like you personally. Is it stability, encouragement, community? Is it having a singular person that you can message when you're confused or you have questions? Once you know what belonging looks like to you, you can begin to build it intentionally. And as we wrap up and thinking about what belonging means to us personally, I want you to also consider, what does it feel like? What spaces help you feel grounded or affirmed and confident? Consider one action that you can take into the rest of this week, although it is finals, or even into spring, and think about what can strengthen your sense of connection. Again, whether that's reaching out to a classmate, joining a study group, or simply reminding yourself that your path has value. Belonging starts with acknowledging that you deserve to be here. And so I leave you with one final question. What is one academic space where I could show up a little more without overextending myself? I want to thank you all for being a part of this session and for bringing the richness of your experiences into this learning community. Your path is meaningful, your perspective matters, and your contributions make academic spaces stronger and more inclusive. I hope you leave this conversation and this session with a deeper sense of belonging and the confidence to continue shaping your scholarly identity with pride. In addition, I hope that you guys go to our website and look at all the past resources for all of the past sessions that we've had, and even show up to our session, not next week, because that is considered the actual finals week for ASU, and they don't allow any events during that. But the following week on the 16th, I believe it should be that Tuesday, we'll be having our final session where we talk about how to communicate across disciplines. Awesome. Yes. Even if you can't attend all of the office hours, just reaching out and emailing your professors. And I'll go ahead and I'll stop the recording and you guys can talk a little bit more freely. Give me one moment. And once again,